This tape has been copyrighted. Any duplication or reproduction without written consent is prohibited.
Well, Jann's going to talk to you right now. I just wanted to, real quick, you've heard me introduce her a lot, and we've been together. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary in May. And we've been in love for 24 years, has it been now? We met when I was 17 years old, and we've had a ride. It's been unbelievable, and a lot of you have enriched our lives so much. We just want to, thank you for that. And you can't do something great like this without an incredible partner. And I have the absolute, unbelievably best. There's no question about it. If you only knew, if you could see behind the scenes how hard Jann Marque works and how much she cares and the things she does to make all this happen, you would just be blown away. I mean, you really, really would. I mean, I'm up front and I get a lot of the attention and recognition, but the fact is she does every bit as much as I do, and most of the time more, honestly. I get to do a lot of the fun stuff. She does a lot of the stuff that I'm not good at. And somebody said something about marrying your opposite. I think that was John that said that, and I definitely married my opposite. She gets things done. I'm a dreamer and creative. She always thought I was crazy. Hopefully she doesn't think that anymore. But I just want her to know, and I want to let you know publicly, I am more in love. Look at how good she looks. Isn't that amazing? She looks so good. She takes such great care of herself. She is so disciplined. One of the greatest things to you people that are just looking at this business for the first time, you never know you don't really know your partner until you've actually worked with them. And you really don't. I mean, I knew she was great, and obviously I fell in love with her. We got married, but we didn't work together. She worked in another business, in the X-ray business. I was in the jewelry business, and so I never saw truly how great she was until PFS. And I thank God every day, number one, that He put her in my life. She's the most incredible mother to our two children, and I'm sure you'll talk a little bit about that, and I know I'm going to. But, babe, I love you more than ever. I really, really do. You're the best. And every day I get up, I just thank God that you're there next to me. I love you. Jann Marque.
I need some peanuts.
I'll get some.
Can you guys hear me? Is this on? Is this on, Rob? Okay. Sorry.
What is it?
Good morning. Just bear with me. I do not like doing this, but I hope that some of you will benefit from it, so that's why I force myself to do it. So I'm going to tell my story again. I know a lot of you probably go, oh boy, I've heard this 12 times, but a lot of you haven't, a lot of you are new. So I'm going to start with that, and then an analogy about our daughter, and then just kind of a little bit about what our life is like now. Like Hector said, we've been together for 24 years. We got married when he was at the end of his junior year in college. We really struggled financially. We had 2 kids right away. They're 15 months apart, and it was really, really difficult. He was working in the jewelry business, and he started, a guy approached him with Amway. So he did Amway for 2 years. I mean, he really went to the meetings every week. He bought all the tapes. We went to the conventions. I mean, we did everything. He made no money, but I was totally supportive. Then he did another thing called Herbalife, and I remember going on my birthday to some man's house that I never met in Diamond Bar and doing a presentation and getting him on Herbalife on my birthday, just trying to be supportive. And then we did MeadowFresh, and which was a milk substitute. Hector kind of talked about this yesterday. And by the time he got around to doing PFS, I was so frustrated. I had a 4- and a 5-year-old, and I honestly felt like the reason he was doing all these businesses is because he didn't want to be with me and the kids. I don't know if some of you feel like that, but that's what I felt like. That he was just finding all these excuses because he wasn't winning at what he was doing. He wasn't making a difference. He wasn't. So all I could see it as is that he was just taking time away from the family. That's how I felt. So when he got started in this business, the only thing that I did for him was I gave him the freedom to do it. I didn't help him at all. I didn't go to any of the meetings. I didn't understand what it was about. I didn't know anything about it. But I did give him the freedom to do the business, but I wasn't supportive in any other way. And I will have to say, though, in like the first 7 months of the business, that when he got started, he really did work at it, and he made money. Oh, I got to tell you this really cute story, though. He got licensed in May of 1983, but he didn't write his first sale till January of 1984, that was really a quick start there. So he takes Janae and I to the test site, and with the promise that he's going to take us to Disneyland when he gets done with his test that day. So he told me it's only going to take like probably 20 minutes for him to take this test. He's definitely not a realist. So Janae was probably 3 or 4 at that time, 4 I think. And so we're out there waiting. You can imagine how patient she was, knowing that she's going to Disneyland. So he was an afternoon test date. So it took him about 2.5 hours to take the test. So he comes out, so it's like 3:30 at this time. So we get in the car, we drive to Disneyland. We get there about 4:30. Disneyland closed at 6. We didn't know that. So we didn't end up going because he wasn't going to pay whatever dollars to go to Disneyland for an hour and a half. So that's how our PFS, so I hated PFS to start with after that. And so did Janae, I'm sure. So once he did get started, he had actually tricked me into going to the first convention, which is about 7 months after he had gotten started. And he did that by selling me on how this was going to be this really romantic weekend, and we were going to have, and that sounded really good to me, considering we had a 4 and a 5-year-old, and we hadn't been spending much time together, and he had been working 7 days a week. I thought a romantic weekend sounded really good, but I wasn't going to go to any of the meetings. I was just going to go for the romantic weekend. So we get there, and we had never stayed anywhere, mainly just we went camping on our honeymoon, so that was, that's where my background came from. So we get this beautiful condo on a golf course, and it was just spectacular, and we were having a great time, and all of a sudden there's a knock on the door, and Hector goes and answers it, and it's this couple, Everett and Eileen Perkins, our roommates, that he failed to tell me that we had roommates for the weekend that were my parents' age on top of that. So needless to say, it wasn't a romantic weekend, but it definitely changed our life. Thank goodness I went to the awards dinner that Friday night, and I'm a really competitive person. I may not seem like it because I'm kind of shy and introverted, but I hate to lose, and I don't like to be second at anything. So that night I just kept sitting there thinking, oh my God, everything they said, I wanted them to be saying it about Hector. I didn't know because I hadn't been around, but I was just hoping that the things they were saying were about him. I don't know if some of you felt like that on Friday night, that you wanted the things that Hector was saying for him to be saying that about your partner. But that's how I felt that night. And so then the next day he says, well, why don't you just come to the meeting, just see what it's about. And so I heard Ronnie Barnes and Bill Whittle, those were the guest speakers that weekend. And, like I said, I hadn't really been to anything, and I didn't really understand it, but I came away that weekend feeling like, I don't know what this is about, but I felt something that I was afraid if I let it go, that I might never feel that again. And that scared me because, after, we were about 26 years old at that time, and we had a lot of disappointments. I was a big dreamer, and I just felt like things weren't really going in the direction that I wanted them to go, and I felt like something that I saw that weekend gave me hope that we might get back on track in the direction that we wanted to go. So I really became supportive at that time. We came back, and then we had a fast start school that next weekend. And we had 2 recruits when we went to the retreat, but neither one of them went with us. So when we got back, we invited 12 people to a fast start school, and we hired all 12 of them. It must have been Hector's great speaking ability that did that. I don't know if you've heard him say that, but the very first time that he spoke, I was so embarrassed. I told him, I am never going to hear you speak ever again. It was about like the Dave Mosquera story that you were telling. He was supposed to be writing numbers. He had them on cards, and he kept transposing the numbers, and he was. Have you ever seen the movie Broadcast News when Albert Brooks is going to start sweating profusely? Well, that's what he was doing up on stage. His lip was quivering, and I'm like, oh my, I'm sure we hired all 12 because I thought, well, if Hector can make money at this, we surely can make money at this. So, but we started from that. He could only work 2 nights a week, so his time was really limited, and he had hired all these new people. So I started hearing these rumors that he was going to go full time. Well, this is only like 2 months after my first exposure to the business. Well, I wasn't that supportive. So I approached him. I says, I'm hearing these rumors that you're going to go full time. Is this true? I don't want you to. I feel like we've already paid the price. We've struggled financially, in the early part of our marriage, just because he was in school still, and I says, I'm not willing, I'm comfortable right now. He was making about $50,000 a year, and I was only working on the weekends, so I had all week off to spend with my kids. I said, and I'm not willing to sacrifice. I don't want, I've already paid a price, and I don't want to do that. And so I just remember, Hector never gets mad. He's only got angry at me maybe 2 or 3 times in the 24 years that I've known him. And so we're driving on the freeway. I mean, I was really nagging and really being negative and basically saying, you're not going full time. And so I just remember this so vividly. He just like slams his fist down on the steering wheel, and he says, well, why did you marry me then? And I was like in shock first that he would yell at me. And but then I thought, he goes, you're telling me that you don't believe in me, that you don't think I can provide for you. Isn't that the basis for a good marriage? So why did you marry me? And I think a lot of you need to ask yourselves that same question, because, I know a lot of you do this. I see it. You beat each other up. You discourage each other rather than encourage each other. You point out each other's weaknesses instead of pointing out each other's strengths. And you need to ask yourself the question, why did you marry each other? And get back to those fundamentals rather than where you're at right now. So, after he decided I'm going full time, like it or not, basically that's what he told me. He goes, I can do this thing. This is not about selling insurance, which is what he came away from that first retreat. He goes, this is a big deal, and I can be really successful at this. You can either follow me, or if you want to leave, then you can leave. That was his attitude. He says, if you don't believe in me, then why don't you just leave? Well, I didn't want to leave. I really loved him. I just wanted to get my way. So I went to talk to my mom because she's the most negative person that I know. And I thought, I know that she's going to totally agree with me and, talk some sense into Hector. And so, but instead she surprised me and she told me, well, you know what, Jann, he's a really good worker, and, why don't you just trust him? Give him 6 months. I was in shock that this was her advice. Then Hector talked to his dad about it. I don't think not to get his approval, but just letting him know what was going on. And his dad was really concerned that he was going to be leaving his job. And he told him, Hector, I think you should think about it. You've got a good job. And Hector told him, and this is tough. And some of you need to tell your relatives that they need to live their own lives, and that you need to make your own decisions and stop listening to them. He told his dad, when you start paying my bills, you can start telling me what to do. And I think that's really good advice. And I see so many people, they let their families influence them and tell them that they can't do it. But, the worst thing that can happen is that you'll turn out like them, right? So you might as well go for it. So we got totally focused at that point. Am I taking too much time? Okay. We got totally focused at that point. I didn't have any choice but to do that. So we put together this 60-month game plan. And I went back to work full-time during the week, and plus I was an x-ray technician, and I got a job being on call as an x-ray technician at an urgent care center at night, just because I was scared to death about Hector being in a having a position that was commission only, not knowing how much the check was going to be every week. And I know a lot of you are nervous about that too. What I didn't understand, or I failed to see, thank goodness he's a visionary, is like what it was talked about yesterday, is that when you don't know how much you can make, that there's no ceiling, that you can make as much as you want. That choice is yours, not your boss's. That was tough with the little kids because, he didn't get home most of the time till 11 or 12 o'clock at night. And if I got called in to go do an x-ray and the kids were asleep, I would have to get them up out of bed, take them down to the clinic, get them out of the car, go do the x-ray, get them back in the car, take them home, put them back in bed. There were lots of times that I would have to get them up 2 or 3 times a night and take them down there. When we opened up our first office, I took over all the administrative part of the business at that point, and I quit my job. That was in September of 1986. And I don't know, I think our whole business changed at that point. Hector had been trying to do it all, and nobody's capable of that. So I really, at that, we were pretty much stagnated at about $30,000 a month, and we hadn't grown that much. And so when I took over all the administrative stuff and I freed him up to totally focus on just hiring and field training, our business exploded. And I'm not trying to take credit for that. I'm just trying to say that by freeing him up, that it made him use his time the most productively. And I pretty much, that's what I do still today. I don't go to the office every day, but I'm in contact with Darlene and Roberta and Astrid on a daily basis, and I just kind of oversee everything, and I do all the bookkeeping. I still haven't been able to give that up. But I'm working on it. Hector's he wants me to learn how to play golf, so I have to give that up if I'm going to do that. It's too time consuming. But when I say totally focused, I don't want to scare you, but I want you to know the truth. I'm talking about 8 in the morning till 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, 6, 7 days a week. And some of you might go, whoa, whoa, whoa. What about your family? What about your kids? And, we were so committed to this 60-month plan, but our kids didn't suffer. What we would do, we'd pick them up after school, we'd take them to the park, we'd go to the movies in the afternoon, we'd go out to lunch, we'd listen to Art Williams tapes in the car constantly. We spent time with our kids, and I was always with the kids. Hector was the one that was working and not there all the time. But you know what? They didn't know any different. They didn't know that wasn't the way it's supposed to be. They don't know unless you tell them. Oh, your dad's not going to be home again tonight. Can you believe that? They don't know that unless you tell them that. He didn't play tennis like he said. He mentioned yesterday he didn't go to any family birthdays unless he could, or he'd show up late. He didn't go to family weddings. He'd show up late. He didn't go to anything. He just totally focused on building his business, and he gave up everything just to do that. But it worked. That 60-month plan worked. I mean, during that time, his focus was on developing people, which, I think he did a great job of. I see a lot of you're going on sales, but you're pretty much focusing on going on sales. You're not going on sales to develop the people that you're going on sales with. And I think Hector did. That was his secret, is when he was going on a sale, he did the sale, he closed the sale, but then on the way home he talked to the recruit about, did you see why I did this? Did you hear when I did this? This is why I did that. He explained everything to him. And I don't know that you guys are all doing a great job of that, and I think that could be why you're maybe not growing at the rate you want to be growing, is you're not teaching your people everything that you know, and that has to come from you. The one thing that we did do that I think is really important, and that you'll probably think is funny, but for the first 5 years of the business, we had monthly potlucks. And it was the second Saturday of every month. It was at our house, and we didn't allow children. We did at first, but what we found is that the partners were so worried that the kids were going to mess something up or do something that they couldn't have a good time and they didn't enjoy themselves. So we decided that we weren't going to have any kids. And it wasn't really like a meeting to do training or anything like that. It was just strictly for building relationships and for recognition. And we'd go to Pick and Save and get the recognition, like big glasses for the most focused person and targets for those on target. I mean, just really silly things. But the thing that it was is it was duplicatable, because if somebody comes in and you're giving away Mont Blanc pins and vacations and money, they don't see themselves doing that because they're not in a financial position to do it, so they don't think they can do it. So we've tried to keep it really duplicatable. That's kind of what happened during that 60 months. Now I just want to go into a little story about my daughter, an analogy, and hopefully it makes sense. I really wasn't going to talk. I told Hector this morning I didn't want to, and then, I don't know, every time I hear Eric talk, then I feel like I should talk. So I call it Janae's B-plus student story. Janae is our youngest. Dak's older. School always came much easier for Dak. He's always a straight A student. And she sort of was living in his shadow. Never felt like, I didn't compare her, but she compared herself. I didn't, she was a B-plus student, and I thought she tried hard, and that's all I really asked for her, is that she was doing the best that she could. So 2 years ago, we're building this house at the beach, and we decide we're going to move down there and live in a rental while our house is being finished, and that Janae's going to change schools. So she starts at her new school. In 5 weeks, she had been going to a private school with only 10 or 12 students per class, and then now she was going to go to a school, public school, with 35, 40 kids in her class. So she went for 5 weeks, and then she didn't like the school. She wanted to go back to her other school. She said, these kids are not all they are worried about is partying. She goes, at my school, I'm used to people being focused on their studies, and something happened during that 5-week period that changed Janae's life. I don't know what it was. I just thank God that it did. She went back to Webb, her school she graduated from, with total confidence that she could do whatever she wanted. So in her junior year, she ended up the school year, even though she had missed the first 5 weeks there, with the highest grade point average in her class. So then that summer, we were on a college trip, and we went to go to Berkeley and to Stanford. So we went to Berkeley, and it was okay, but I really didn't like the city that much. So I'm thinking, please don't go to Berkeley. And so I said, well, let's go down to Stanford. We're already up here. Let's just, go down. I don't want to go down there. I can't get in there. I'm not going to be able to get in there. I don't want to go. I said, well, our flight's not till 8:30. Let's just go. So we go down there. She gets there. She goes through the tour, and she's like, I have to go here. She had a sweatshirt, a backpack, a hat. I mean, everything Stanford, So we come home, and I says, okay, you need to put together a game plan of what you're going to do. So she goes, well, I need to probably take calculus, if she doesn't like math, if I'm going to go there. So she made a commitment to take calculus. And so first, and then in October of that year, she took her SATs, and she scored higher than Dak did on his SATs. So all these little things just kept happening. Then she's got all A's again, her first quarter of her senior year. And she applied to 8 schools, and she got accepted to 7 of the 8 schools. She was just waiting for Stanford. She hadn't heard from Stanford. So we come home. We had been in Palm Springs. We drove home because we knew it was going to come that day. And she goes to there's a package on the porch. And so I said, oh, that's that camping equipment. It's nothing. So she goes up there, and she's looking at it, and she starts jumping up and down, screaming. And so I go, what? And so she had this envelope from Stanford that said, congratulations on it. So we're in the driveway, jumping up and down, screaming, because she had gotten accepted to Stanford. So she opens up the package, and it says on the front of the envelope, for all the nights you stayed up late, for all the AP classes you took when you didn't want to, for studying when your friends were playing, we congratulate you. Well, see, most of you guys out there, you see yourself as B-plus students. Something is keeping you from doing everything. You're doing almost everything, but you're not doing everything. And I use this story because, and I see everybody has weaknesses, but most people avoid working on their weaknesses, and they continue to work on their strengths. And so I just think, what I saw happen to Janae in the last 2 years, hopefully this is making sense, is what I think you guys could do with your business if you would just stop looking at yourselves as B-plus students and comparing yourself to A students and just do whatever it takes to become an A student. Because you're all capable of it. You're all capable of it. I just want to kind of talk about, just for a few minutes, and then I'll finish up here, the things that we've been able to do for our family and the life that we have as a result of that 60-month plan and how much it was worth it. Both my parents and Hector's parents celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, and we were fortunate enough, because of this business, to be able to take our whole extended family, nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody to Hawaii. It was a group of 40. We went to Maui. We stayed at the Westin because we wanted to do something. I mean, we could have had a party and all that, but we wanted to do something where everybody would be away in a relaxed environment where they could just dote on our parents for the whole week. Something that our parents would remember forever. It was such an incredible experience. I mean, I can't even tell you. I think Hector and I got more out of it than anybody else did. It was just so great just seeing everybody there so in love with each other and just enjoying themselves, not having to worry about the money. I mean, I don't know. Don't some of you, wouldn't you like to do that for your families? Some of you want to do that? Every year we try to take our parents on a vacation. We've taken them to Hawaii 3 times, Mexico, Spain, New York, Washington, D.C., Carmel, San Francisco. I mean, we want to repay them we both grew up with really humble beginnings, but we wanted to repay them for the things that they did teach us, which was work ethic and how to treat people right and how to come from love. And they did a really great job of that, and so we want to repay them for that. My life today is just a fairy tale. That's all I can say. I'm married to the most wonderful man on earth. I don't know why I'm so lucky, but for some reason God decided to put him in my life, and it's been an incredible life. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary, and I was laughing because we were in Monte Carlo on the French Riviera for our 20th anniversary. And we, like I told you, we started out at our honeymoon at Campland camping in San Diego. So from Campland to Monte Carlo in 20 years, anything's possible. And, we just moved into my dream home on May 29th. I always wanted to live at the beach. I love the beach. I feel at peace at the beach. That's just been my goal. I didn't ever see that being possible. When I was growing up, I thought that only happened to, people that won the lottery or inherited the money. I didn't, see it as something that I could do. I just, thank God for Art Williams and for PFS, and that he put Hector in my life. And thank you guys very much. And I love you.